Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast. I'm your host, Anish Gupta.
And I'm your host, Srikar Gendern.
I can't believe the NFL season has already flew by. We're on the last week, and I think this is the first time since we've done this that both our teams are in the playoffs. I think every year that we've done this, it's only been like one, and Jack's team has never made it. So
Yeah.
it's either been the Niners or the Browns. This year, both are in. So let's clap it
Nice.
up. That's awesome.
You love to
Obviously,
see it.
one had a way easier path to get there. Another had four different quarterbacks and a bunch of injuries, but that's okay. The Niners are obviously at the top of their game right now, and have been all year, pretty much. So we'll go. I guess start. You know what? We'll stay with the Niners. I know I had a different topic list, but we'll start it with the Niners since we're talking about them. I kind of made it as a name of who can dethrone the Niners in the NFC because honestly, I look at the standings and like it's so like if I'm being brutally honest, I have no idea. Like they are I mean they've basically ravaged through the NFC. Their only one I think their only loss was to Minnesota. Yeah, I think that was the only loss to an NFC opponent. The other three were literally all to the AFC North. So the Niners have looked pretty remarkable against NFC competition. They destroyed Philadelphia, put up 42 on them. They destroyed Dallas, put up 42 on them. And I think if they were to play Detroit, they would destroy them and maybe put 42 on them. So I'll let you start since you are obviously the Niner fan. Who do you like if there's one team in the NFC you don't want to play, who would it be?
Uh, Pretty easily, it's the Rams. It's like one quiet thing that's kind of just been fleeting my mind, but I do not want to play LA. And it's not because of 2021. It's nothing like that. And I think the Rams definitely are better than their record shows. I've been saying all year, like they're 9-7, but they're playing like they're like 12-4. Like I think they're really good. Matthew Stafford, definitely a top three QB in the NFC this season, if we're going off this season alone. And you could argue even higher than that, to be honest. I think Stafford's really balled out. But I mean, you look at Dallas. Honestly, I'd be a little bit scared considering that Dallas is kind of just due to beat us at some point. Like we can't keep beating Dallas in the playoffs, and that's just not going to continue. Ownage is ownage, but I feel like with the history of Dallas and SF, like things just don't run that way. So superstitious kind of, but I'd be a little worried about seeing Dallas. I'm not really worried about Detroit, especially considering it would be an SF. And if you get pressure on Jared Goff, he'll turn it over, and Niners obviously will capitalize on that. Tampa Bay, I'm not scared of. We already beat them this season. I think if they came to Levi's, we beat them again. Philly, NSF, I'd pick the Niners. The Rams, knowing the nature of divisional games, the Niners did see Seattle last year for the third meeting, and they absolutely crushed them. But Seattle still made it interesting in that first half. So I think just the nature of divisional games too could factor into the Rams being the biggest threat. And then with Green Bay, it's just I think if Jordan Love came to Levi's, it would be a Niner win. So that basically covers it. I kind of just went through all the teams, but out of all those, I think the Rams and the Cowboys are honestly the biggest threats here.
Yeah, so we're gonna see the matchup, obviously, Rams, Niners. Wentz versus Darnold. For all the OG viewers, I don't think you understand how excited I am for this game. I literally got told in like five different group chats that I'm going to be the only person who cares about this game, and I 100% agree. It's gonna be me and Jack, but yeah, we're the only two people that probably even care about this more than Niner fans. So I cannot believe we're gonna see a Carson Wentz, Darnold, Sam Darnold game in 2024, but. We're here. Yeah, so you kind of took everything I wanted to say. I mean, I've been pretty high on the Rams all year. I said, or I think that the teams that the Niners should be scared of, rightfully so, prior to even the Ravens game was Baltimore, Buffalo, and the Rams for me. And I got a little bit of pushback earlier from that, just because the whole Shanahan owns McVay, and you know where I stand on that. But yeah, I'll touch on the Rams a little bit. This is like I think Sean McVay in any other year would win Coach of the Year for what he's doing. Like this is insane what he's been able to do with the roster like this. Makeshift O line. Obviously, two fifth-round picks that are just going crazy in Kyron and Puka on a game-to-game basis. Their guards have been phenomenal, and Steve Avila, who's a rookie, and then Dotson, who's come in from like Pittsburgh and all these different places, and he's shined. Havenstein's been great. No Boom's even been good. I've had my fair doubts with him, and then their defense has been playing really. It's been up and down for sure, but when push comes to shove, and when they absolutely need it, they've kind of been lights out. So that's kind of my take on like the Rams as a whole. And then as for why I think they can beat them, well, for one, they've done it in the playoffs. Like at least that's like there, and some of those teammates are still on the roster. And I think for the Rams to go play SF, right? There's familiarity, right? And this is an offense that can give SF some trouble, at least on the outside. Obviously, you'll hear Niner fans just, talk about Charvarius Ward all day, and fine, he's had a decent year. But
More than decent. All right, let's put some respect
I'm
on Mooney Ward's
I'm
name right now.
I'm just gonna say decent, but yeah, like I think he can be had with the receivers that they have, because he was had in the game earlier. But yeah, I think the Rams would be my number one threat, and I think they win round one regardless, and I probably just jinxed them. But like if it's Dallas or Detroit, I think Dallas I'm a little bit scared about, but Detroit I think they would win. So I'm really hoping they actually do keep that sixth seed, and odds are I think they're going to play SF, because if they do win, because SF plays the lowest seed, and I think they will be that. So that's probably I think the matchup that we will see, and I'm really hoping for it. And then as for Dallas, here's what I think. If it does come down to Niners Dallas in the NFC Championship, I think it would be so funny that, because if SF wins, here's how their last three playoff runs would have been. They beat Dallas in the wild card in 2021. They beat Dallas in the divisional in 2022, and then they beat
NFC
Dallas in the champion. I think that's like I think that's how it's gonna happen. I just feel like that narrative is gonna come out. But like schematically, and if I really want to go in depth, I think Dallas would also be, out of any of the division winners, it would be Dallas. Like CD will give them fits. He always has. The only problem is they can't get the run game going. Like if they had like Zeke before COVID, if they just had that version of Zeke, God, this would have been such a better matchup, because like then the Cowboys could have chewed clock. But for them, they're so CD dependent that it just makes it really hard. And Tony Pollard is just not a one. I think we were sadly mistaken. Anybody who thought that just didn't work out this year. So yeah, I think, and then obviously no Trayvon Diggs. So I just think Dallas will get outclassed by SF. I think the Rams are really the only NFC threat. Barring a major collapse from SF, I think we're pretty much going to see them in the Super Bowl. So I think we can move on to that. Just, how mad I am at the NFC. I was told that the AFC was weaker, by the way, and I think that's like completely stupid. Like
they're deeper, but in terms of the top teams, I'd take the NFC.
I think SF is the only one that would match up with any of the top teams in the AFC. Like I don't think. I mean, you saw Dallas get killed by Buffalo. Eagles got bailed by Buffalo. I mean, I think the Browns would honestly match up pretty well with any of these. Obviously, the Chiefs on any given Sunday can be really good or really bad, but that's just my take on it. But we'll stick with the Ravens here. Obviously, they just killed Miami. Thanks a lot, Miami. I needed Miami to win for the Browns. Obviously, they didn't. They hung up, I think 56. I literally stopped watching the game after the Ricard touch. I was like, all right, dude.
It's over.
It's over. Like, yeah, I think they won like 56 to like 13 or something. I mean, the game flow, it was really weird, because Miami was marching up and down the first quarter, and then it just stopped. Like, then they just got in their own way. So, once Baltimore had that, then they just capitalized. And obviously, I want to center this more on Lamar rather than Baltimore. So Lamar Jackson was like 18 and 21. He had like 300 something yards and 5 touchdowns. Obviously, the yards per attempt was insane. The touchdowns were insane. The completion percentage. So the stats will wow you, right? For this game. And now he's like minus 20,000 or something to win MVP. Yeah. So I think it's pretty much a lock. I'll start. I don't think I would give it to him. Like, I just think I would still give it to CMC if I really did have a vote. It's tough. It's tough to say. I think, the last two games have just, with this MVP race, since it's so tight, right? One game here or there can sway it. Like even last year, remember Hurts and Mahomes? Hurts just got hurt. and he couldn't even prove his case. And then Mahomes just kind of took it at the end because he had some stellar performances. So, I think for the MVP, it's just kind of a game to game basis right now. And yeah, Lamar, when you needed it most for MVP, he destroyed the Niners on with good efficiency, and then he killed Miami, another good team, for the 1 seed. So I think that's just going to go in his favor. But I think if we're looking at the full season, right, I would give it to Christian McCaffrey. I'm sure you have the stats pulled up, but yeah, I mean, I was looking at it. If you really want to box score it, yeah, Lamar's not going to wow you on the year. I think he has like 19. I don't even think he has 20 touchdowns on the year. He might have eclipsed it with this game, but yeah, I just don't think the numbers or anything wow you. You could say, right, since they have the best record in the league and he's playing pretty well, right? You can give it to him. But if I had a vote, I would probably still give it to McCaffrey.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, I think with Lamar, the MVP race this year is just so interesting because of out of all the years I've seen in football, this is the year that you give it to a running back. And I actually saw someone in a group chat kind of pose this question on if there should be a co-MVP, and you give it to Lamar and CMC, to kind of erase the stigma around running back being a QB award. And I actually disagree because I actually think the stigma would get worse because that just makes it to some people. I don't know if anyone's gonna feel this way, but if you look at a co-MVP, you're gonna ask what does it take for a running back to just win MVP. It just kind of feels like you just threw him in there just so people can feel satisfied with Christian McCaffrey getting MVP, but I just don't think a co-MVP would make any sense. But yeah, with my vote, I won't beat around the bush. I'd give it to CMC. Again, yeah, I agree. Lamar won't wow you with the numbers. He's been really efficient this year, but when you compare this with the 2019 year, it's not nearly the same. Like not at all. And I just feel like that really shouldn't be a factor. But in a MVP race that's so weak on QBs, I just don't feel it makes sense to not reward CMC, a guy who has 2,000 scrimmage yards, who has literally just been the engine to this Niner offense. As much as we want to say it's Brock, I mean CMC also kind of just this is a Shanahan scheme, and it's really dependent on a running back. And now that you have a true workhorse in there who played all 16 games and really dominated, I think it's safe to say that he really kind of just makes the offense go. So I think, yes, Lamar definitely deserves his credit. He definitely deserves, whatever may be coming his way. But yeah, I personally I wouldn't give it to him. I'd toss my vote to McCaffrey.
I think it's tough because it's like I would give it to McCaffrey, and I think fine. I will say this with Lamar in his 2019 year. Like I think the reason why he won it that year was, yeah, the stats were by far I think like the best, and also they were just running away with the league in the regular season. Like it wasn't even close. They won literally 12 straight from week 4. Like they were just running. It was pretty clear. This season, I think like they've had some shoe-ins, and then I think the biggest thing for Lamar this year, which obviously doesn't go into MVP voting, but just for me when I'm evaluating him, I've always been, people think I'm like a Lamar hater or whatever. I don't think I am. I would knock him a lot for, a couple things like the deep dropbacks and then just flat out like wobblers and ducks that he'll throw. He's improved on that so much this year if you really watch the tape. And then like the deep dropbacks are just a given with mobile QBs, but like the accuracy on throws over the middle is vastly improved. And I think Todd Monken should really get some credit for this because now they're running plays with 3 wide receivers instead of 3 tight ends. Like that was the biggest thing I mentioned when they were getting Todd Monken, more spread, less tight and power. So now you're getting Lamar actual speed guys who can get open versus big tight ends who are just going to kind of get you 4 or 5 yards over the middle. So that's why you see this, like the playbook open up so much. And, as a result of it, you're seeing, big time performances from some of these receivers, Dave Flowers, Odell, Rashad Bateman had a couple of big plays last week. So, that's just kind of how it's working. Obviously, no Mark Andrews, so you're even going to see more of that, right? And likely is kind of that downfield threat. He's a big guy, but he's fast. So, you're going to see more of that. I think that's the biggest case to Lamar, at least for me. And then for CMC, yeah, I wouldn't even argue this is close to his 2019 season. I think that one was more deserving of an MVP than this. But so it's ironic that both the what do you call it? The candidates best years
flipped, yeah.
2019, but it's now here. So Yeah, I don't even think he won Offensive Player of the Year. I think Michael Thomas did. So I don't know how they'll do Offensive Player of the Year. I think it really sucks because I think if Tyreek hit 2,000, I think we would have had for sure an MVP in Tyreek. But, obviously other variables, injury, just missing games during the game, it just happened like that. So I think that's kind of it. I think we'd both agree. Yeah, CMC would be the MVP, but Lamar, I'm not going to really be mad at it. It's hard to really say if he's been the best quarterback this year. I really do think you were saying Stafford is a top three MVP or quarterback in the NFC. I think he has a case for being the best QB all year, just because of
Me too. Yeah.
I think he really has a case for that. Josh can be thrown in there too, but yeah, there's been no quarterback that's just been right here. You know what I
I
mean?
think if Josh had like less, a little bit less turnovers, I actually think he might have been a shoe-in for
He
MVP,
has way
especially
better stats than Lamar, by the way. Aside from the turnovers,
way
it's not
better. And this
close.
whole second half run would have boosted his case like crazy.
Yeah,
So
yeah. If they had like maybe ran the table, beat Philly, right?
yeah.
I think that would have boosted it. But I think yeah, that's kind of where we stand. Honestly, yeah, I think Allen might be my two if I'm being honest, or maybe even my one. I didn't talk much about Josh, but yeah, I think CMC would be a slight favorite, but it is what it is. Lamar is going to get his second one. All
Mhm.
right. I think you ready for picks? Final week.
Yes.
Ready
Yep. Heading into the final week of the regular season, not much has really changed. Anish is at 166 wins. I'm at 161.
There's a
So
chance for you,
let's.
I
I'm
guess.
not. I'm not
You
even gonna
you
try.
differ on five.
I don't. I never try to force difference. So this is just gonna
Remember,
be
no, but
whatever
hey,
I show.
remember when I like actually like, differed on five against Jack and it
Yeah, and
happened?
it all hit. Yeah, it was actually kind of crazy. But I'm
Yeah.
not gonna try and attempt that. Um, just gonna pick the games like I normally do. But this week is kind of interesting with all the backups. There's a lot of different variables, a lot of uncertainty there. So let's see. Starting with the Saturday slate, Steelers, Ravens. I mean, Mike Tomlin and at least 9 wins is just inevitable in the NFL at this point. Even after a couple of really bad losses to teams like Arizona and New England, the Steelers are 9-7, and they still have a shot to make it to the playoffs. So, um, the Ravens, are looking like the team to beat right now in the AFC, but they're going to sit starters. I think Mike Tomlin is going to have his guys ready to capitalize. So, yeah, I think the Steelers get to 10 wins. They'll go into Baltimore. They'll beat this Ravens team, which will be led by Tyler Huntley. It's still going to be a hard-fought game because Huntley's a really good backup, and also the Ravens are just that good. But give me Pittsburgh.
This is gonna be really funny. If they win, they would have swept Baltimore despite them being, 13-4. That's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think here's the thing. So obviously, we're not fearful of the Steelers. I think most of the NFL world isn't. But Steeler Nation and the Steelers are thinking to themselves, hey, okay, in the two starts in Mason Rudolph, we're 2-0, and we've had both our best offensive showings. So like, for them, they're probably thinking any given Sunday. And yeah, who's to say they can't go on the road again after going to Seattle and winning outright? Why can't we do that again in Baltimore? I'll pick Pittsburgh as well. I think they maybe, get it done in that sense and, keep themselves alive.
All right, and the night game on Saturday, obviously a lot at stake in the AFC South this coming week. Playoff scenarios just all over the place. The Texans and the Colts in Indy. Who you got?
Now so there's two games I really want to see, and obviously they put both of them on the respective prime times. It's this one and Miami Buffalo. This one is tough. Like this one is really tough. So last time it was in Houston week 4, Anthony Richardson went berserk in the first quarter, and then he had the AC joint injury, which kept him out for the year. But they were up like 14-0 or something, and Minshew kind of carried it through. So you're basically looking like let's spend some time. You're basically looking at two teams here, both I think they're same record, 9 and
Nine
7.
and
Yes,
seven. Mm-hmm.
right. And Houston's got pretty much everybody back except Tank Dell, and some defensive pieces. And then Indy's pretty much got everyone back except obviously Anthony Richardson. So you're looking at two pretty, evenly matched teams. I think the X factor for Houston is obviously, Stroud, right? Like if Stroud does well, they're going to, they're going to kind of honestly, like maybe not beat them like as much as like a blowout, but I think they would do pretty well. And then as for Indy, your X factor is I think the mix of Minshew and Taylor. This one is tough. I think right now my gut is telling me Houston. I just feel like, the narratives around it would go pretty crazy for Stroud to do that. Um, yeah, that's kind of what my gut is saying, but this one's tough.
Yeah, with the way like both of these teams have played at their best, I think this game is definitely a toss up. The Colts are early 1.5 point favorites.
Well, you get three at home, so
I
technically,
can't help but agree, but I mean, yeah, the Colts offense has gotten a lot of attention and rightfully so. Obviously, the job done by Shane Steichen, Gardner Minshew. I also think the defense is just not getting the credit it deserves. This defense has been really solid, and I'm gonna pick the Colts at home here. The
okay.
defense, strong ground game. I think they get to 10 wins and potentially get that AFC South title, pending what happens with the Jags.
Well,
Um,
so Stroud threw for 384 and two, and they lost. But I think a lot of that was garbage time, I
that was
believe.
garbage time. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I do. Yeah, I do remember that a little bit. But like, I mean, hey, you think? I mean, if he does that again to win it this time, man, I wish he was like in the MVP talk if he didn't have the concussion.
Yeah, the
But
injury hurt him.
yeah,
He
but
definitely would have been there. Obviously, I think favorite for the rookie of the year at least. So
yeah.
moving on.
Oh, him and Puka, man, that sucks. Like one of them.
Okay, here's the thing. I'd personally give it to Puka, but I think the way the betting odds are, it's Stroud's going to be the favorite, and I think
I
they're going to end
think,
up giving
yeah,
it to
it's
him.
tough, man. I wish I could give it to both. Kind of like Baker and Saquon that year, but I think that's how it should have been. But is what it is, man. All right, so we're different on this, I guess.
Yep. Let's move on to your Browns. Joe Flacco's not playing. I don't know how many other starters you guys are. I mean, you guys have been sitting starters all year technically.
Yeah,
But who you got? Who you got playing the Bengals?
this is so. You're taking the Bengals, you're saying? Or it's just
No, no,
me?
no. I was just saying they're playing the
Okay.
Bengals.
Yeah, so I mean, I watched the press conference today. So like, yeah, we're gonna be resting some, but not all, because there's since we're so injury depleted, we can't even like there's a limit on how many inactives we can have. So like we can't even if we wanted to, we can't. Like I think we would just have to like suit them up but not play them. I honestly disagree. I think we should like with the decision to bench Joe. I think we should have played him for at least a quarter. Because think about it, right? Now going into the wild card, we had already a mini bye from Thursday, so like that's 2.5 weeks that he hasn't touched a football in real time. I'm a little bit skeptical of that, right? Especially because we're going to have to go on the road. I personally would have played him a little bit, so I'm actually really nervous, kind of going into wild card weekend now, but. Um, yeah, like Bengals have nothing to play for. We're gonna be starting Jeff Driscoll. Dude, I mean, you know what? I'll just take us just because why not? I want to see Jeff Driscoll pull out a win. But hey, we'll see how it goes. I mean, yeah, I mean, since he has nothing to play for, but and honestly, they should want to lose for a better draft pick. So
Yeah, so the Bengals are 4.5 point favorites. Makes sense. I honestly am gonna go Cleveland as well. Um,
we
just
would have that means we would have won and made the playoffs with five different quarterbacks.
yeah. Narrative adds a factor there. So yeah, just give me Cleveland here. I'll move on very quick. I don't think I'll even change. I might change that pick, but I'll keep it in there for now. Moving on, the Vikings and the Lions in Detroit. Lions are NFC North champs for the very first time, and now you're playing the Vikings Week 18. Pretty bad taste in their mouths after that game against Dallas. The Lions should be competing for the first seed, but thanks to Brad Allen and his officiating crew and Dan Campbell trying to go for two at the 7 yard line, they're not competing for that anymore. So this is in Detroit. The Lions are favored by 4.5. I don't know what their starter situation is. I'd assume they rest. Are they? I have no idea. But I think I'll take the Lions for now. I just got to see whether they're resting starters or not.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk about the call a little bit. Like, so we were in a similar situation when we were playing USC, and I'm talking about Cal, by the way. So this has been a very common topic, and I think it's been a big analytics discussion. Should you go for two in this scenario, or versus and there's the going for two when you're down 14, big thing, right? So here's one thing for sure, and I think Dan Campbell talked about it, but now kind of being part of the sideline, I know this now. You know you're going for two even prior to when the drive starts. Like they knew, okay, when we march down, right? It's called, right? They run 2 minute offense. If we're running a 2 minute offense, we score. We are going for two. We are going for the win here. They decide that then, not right now. So I think this decision was always to go for it. At the 7, I agree, is a little bit. Your percentage goes down a lot once you're plus, or when it's +5. So that one was very iffy. And obviously they got bailed by the offside, but that one was iffy. And then, they had 3 attempts. I think they had 3 attempts, but 4, including the timeout. And the timeout, I don't know if you notice this, but when Dan Quinn called the timeout, they were 100% like no doubt going to get it unless Laporta has like butter on his hands. They had a perfect leak out by Laporta before the timeout was called, and that was going to hit. So, kudos to Dan for that. So yeah, I think they had a world class play that they should have just honestly ran again, but they changed personnel groups and stuff. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit, but it was like a big, decision. And obviously, they look back on like the whole eligibility call. I think both reported it, but they chose to accept 70s, which was not Taylor Decker. So that's why they knocked it off. And yeah, I think the referee crew, it's just, I've been saying this, it should be full-time refs. I can't understand why the NFL can't do that with all the money they make. Go figure. Yeah, so Detroit's still playing for the 2 seed technically. If Dallas loses, they probably won't. So I don't know if they'll fully rest, or maybe play them halfway. I don't know if they're at the same time. I think the NFL will do that to maintain, integrity. Give me Detroit here to win. I think they got a bad taste in their mouths. They want to get back for that.
Yeah, I'll also touch on the call a little bit. I think this is just a nice little cap on. I won't say it's the worst officiated season I've ever seen, but I think it's definitely the most inconsistent.
It's been bad.
On all fronts, it's just been like bad in that sense. I do think Campbell deciding to go for it that many times was based off emotion. He was kind of just riled up on the sideline, like we could both see it. So I think him going that many times is like
going for it was set in stone. Like they knew no matter what they were taking it. Like the 7-yard.
I would have just kicked the extra point though.
Yeah, so that one I think was a little iffy. You don't really get that very often, right?
Yeah.
Like 5-yard penalty. That one I'm a little unsure. Just that's a weird situation, but I think even still, your percentages of taking it there, with the time allotted, it's still, I think, probably like 30 to 35. So versus like 40 to 45. So, push comes to shove. It really depends, but.
All right, we'll move on. We kind of talked about it a little bit there, but the Jaguars and the Titans. I honestly don't want to see this Jaguars team in the playoffs this year. Like, if I'm being completely honest, based off just like, it's not even me being a hater. I just don't want to see them in the playoffs. If they make it, cool. But they're playing the Titans. I mean, the Titans don't have anything to play for this week except like pride and future jobs. And sometimes that gives you a weird enough scenario to pull off an upset. And I like the Titans a lot of times in these spoiler situations because of how well Mike Vrabel has his team prepared. And then you factor in that the Titans have talent on both sides of the ball. I really like Will Levis. They've played some good teams really tough this season. I honestly think Tennessee is about to ruin Jacksonville's playoff chances this week. And the Jags are only favored by 3.5 points. I mean, kind of tells you all you need to know. The odds makers aren't really, too hot on them. But give me Tennessee. I actually think they're going to do it this week.
So, I mean, for the longest time, I was so high on Jacksonville the entire year. I mean, I had them like 13 wins. I had them in the NFC or AFC Championship. I had them all the way to the Super Bowl. I had them. I mean, no one was higher on this team than I was. And they were 8-3 and 1 kick away from being the 1 seed. And then Trevor Lawrence gets stepped on by his own teammate. And that completely derailed them. Like, I'm just so mad about that. But despite all that, they still have a chance to win the division and at least get a home playoff game. which makes me mad because we're gonna have to play them. So you know, uh, I don't really want to see them there, but I'll take Jacksonville. I think they're playing for more, and I think they just get it done at the last minute. If Trevor doesn't play though, I'll take Tennessee.
Well, here's a game that absolutely no one cares about. It's the Jets and the Patriots. I mean, this game is it's just who's the less embarrassing team. Like it's really all it is. But I'll let you start here. I think I've gone first in the last couple ones. So who you got?
Um, well, I think I think I went first on every. It's okay. I'm gonna take the Pats. I'm gonna take the Pats. Um, but if like draft order wise, the Pats don't want to win. If they win, I think they're out of top three. So you don't necessarily. I think the Jets are 6-10
They're
or 5-11. One of the
no,
two.
they're 6-10.
Okay, yeah. So then, yeah, they're kind of firmly out of any top five. I think the Pats will win though. That's the problem. Like I think the Pats are a better team. So
Yeah, again, both these teams are just looking ahead to the offseason. I mean, what does the future hold for the Pats with Bill Belichick, who's playing QB for the Pats in 2024? So yeah, this game means nothing, but this could be the last game with the Pats for Bill Belichick, which would be really, really interesting if that's the case. But give me New England, just basically off the strength of this potentially being Belichick's last game. That's literally all it comes down to for me.
I honestly think the Pats aren't that bad. Like
No,
as the
they've been showing some fight lately.
they're pretty solid. Like they should have beaten Buffalo in my opinion too. Like they had 4 turnovers in the first quarter. They
Yeah.
should have beaten Buffalo, but oh well.
All right, moving on, the Falcons and the Saints. I honestly can't predict the Saints like at all. And that level of unpredictability should make this a good game. If New Orleans wins this game, I mean, the NFC South is still up for grabs. Obviously, Derek Carr was brought in and paid a lot of money to make a division title happen again. The Falcons could be picking in the top 10, or they could be hosting a playoff game. Who knows? One way or another, I think Atlanta's going to be making a change at QB. I don't think they're far off from being the best team in the NFC South. That being said, the Saints are 3.5-point favorites in this game at home. I'm going to pick them to win. I think they find a way to get the job done here in the Dome. Yeah, give me New Orleans.
I swear every big NFC South matchup, and I swear we've been getting them so much lately, has
Yeah.
been the road team somehow winning. Like I'm telling you, that's just how it's been. Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Saints, or like Atlanta, Tampa Bay. I mean, it's just been so weird. And you're right. Yeah, Atlanta could be in the top 10, or they could be hosting a playoff game at 8-9. Um, Man, yeah, it could be Atlanta, Philly, which honestly would be an interesting matchup, but I don't think we'll see it. I'll take New Orleans here. And it sucks because, yeah, the Falcons, everyone thought they were pretty much a shoe-in to win this division at least, or like the Saints maybe. But yeah, if the Saints win this, they're not only in contention for the division, but they're in contention for wild card as well. So Saints have a multitude of ways to get in. This one's a weird one, but I'll take the Saints too, I guess.
Moving on, the Bucks and the Panthers will hit on the other NFC South matchup. I mean, the Bucks had a golden opportunity last week at home against the Saints, and they absolutely blew it. I mean, you know, that's all I could really say about last week. They completely just lost it. But now you're playing the Panthers. Gonna be a get right game to end the season. Who you got?
Yeah, that was Baker's worst game as a Buck. I think if Baker wants any chance at that comeback player of the year, he's gonna have to do well here. I mean, could the Panthers somehow play spoiler as a 2-win team who really hasn't shown any life? Somehow, some way, knock the Bucks out of the playoffs. I honestly think it's possible. If the Panthers are anywhere like +6, 6.5, I would take it. I think the Bucks find a way to get it done, and Baker will be in the playoffs, which means Baker, Wentz, and the Browns would all be in. That would be something for me.
Yeah, the Panthers are a team that's clearly at rock bottom. So I do think the Bucks are going to get the win here. Yeah, the Panthers could play spoiler. It would definitely be a surprise given the way they've played this season. Last week, I predicted the Panthers to beat the Jags when it was announced that T-Law would be out and CJ Beathard would be in, and they couldn't even beat CJ Beathard. And from seeing CJ Beathard firsthand, if you can't beat him, then that's not good. So it would just require an epic collapse on the part of the Bucs to lose this one. And you were wondering about the spread. Tampa Bay is considered 6-point favorites right now. So,
Ooh, ho, 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 ho.
I
Panthers
mean,
plus 6.
that could be a good bet right there, but I'll also roll with Tampa Bay. Moving on, we'll move from the NFC South to the NFC North. This game between the Bears and Packers, honestly, I think it is the most underrated game on the entire schedule. It's not a situation where both teams are playing for the division title at the last second, but there's a lot at stake for both of these teams. From the Packers' perspective, at least, this game is about making the playoffs, and doing so in year one of the Jordan Love era would be absolutely outstanding. Love has played really well over the course of this whole season, and I think he's proven that he can be the franchise QB of the Packers. Green Bay, obviously fresh off of a dominating win over the Vikings, who are just injured beyond belief, and they have a chance to do this year what they couldn't last year, which is punch their ticket to the playoffs in the last week of the season. So I think it would almost be poetic for Green Bay to find a way to do that after the way the Aaron Rodgers era ended. 3-point favorites. Green Bay's 3-point favorites. I'm going to pick the Packers to get the job done. I think it's going to be a pretty hard-fought game from both teams, but give me Green Bay to pull it out, make the playoffs.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the coffin with this one. I think this one is a really underrated one too. These are both teams that have looked pretty good over the last few weeks. And yeah, ever since the Denver game, Jordan Love has looked, he's impressed me. There have been some throws that I've been really happy with. And yeah, as you said, the Packers are 8-8, exactly where they were last year. And both times winning in. Last year they didn't do it. This year, I'll give it to them, but I will say this. So if Chicago wins, right? If Chicago wins, they would be I I think they would be third place.
Maybe
Uh
8-9. Packers
yeah, I
would
think they
be
actually
8-9 as
might be
well.
second place. I don't know how it works, but I think Chicago, right? Your draft positioning is a little bit key here just because like if you do trade out of the one, where do you want to be with your own pick? But here's the thing with Chicago. Chicago's looked like a playoff team over the last few weeks. Like they've been their defense, I'm not even kidding, has been top 3 if not the best in the league. They
Matt
have been
Eberflus, he
phenomenal.
finally got the guys for his scheme, and now it's
So
working
he's
out.
he's he's gonna retain his job, and I think rightfully so.
Rightfully.
I'm okay with that. And then Jordan Love earned himself a new contract again. I think rightfully so. So two teams who are happy, and obviously this is one of the most historical NFL rivalries. So you never know. I mean, this game happened week 1 of a rather long season, and Green Bay dismantled him there. Do we see Jordan Love continue to own the division like Aaron Rodgers has? It would be pretty poetic to see, so I'll go Green Bay.
All right, moving on. The AFC West, Broncos, Raiders. Neither of these teams have anything to play for except for pride, but I do think this is going to be, one of the more hard-fought games of the week, especially when you consider the coaching. You got Sean Payton, who always has his guys ready, against Antonio Pierce, who's still trying to make his case for being the Raiders head coach. NLV, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm just gonna save it. I'm taking the Raiders. They've owned Denver over the last like 2 years, and then yeah, AP is trying to keep his job. We're seeing Harbaugh talks. Obviously, that would be very funny if Harbaugh comes and stinks it up like McDaniels. But I think Harbaugh has a little bit more of a reputation than McDaniels ever did as a head coach. And yeah, I mean, obviously Antonio Pierce, whatever happens, I think he's earned himself an NFL spot somewhere. He's
Yeah.
been phenomenal. The players love him. I'm sure he's going to get great recs all around. And I think he's going to close out at least his interim tenure with a win.
So the Broncos have a chance to finish with a winning record for the first time since 2016. I mean, the Broncos have just been in the headlines all season, from obviously getting dropped 70-20 in Miami to the winning streak to benching Russell Wilson last week. I mean, it really just hasn't been a seamless first year in Denver for Sean Payton, but with the way things were in Denver last season, I don't think anybody should have expected seamless. You're right, the Broncos haven't beaten the Raiders in a while. But you know what? I kind of have a feeling that Sean Payton is going to get this team to a winning record in his first year on the job.
All right.
So just off a gut feeling, I'll take Denver. I 100% think I'm going to switch this to LV based off momentum, but based off the gut, I'll go with Denver. Moving on, Eagles Giants. The Eagles. I mean, yeah, they're 11-5 right now, which is obviously nothing to scoff at. But I mean, just the way they've played this year has looked nothing like what we saw last year. And the Eagles just got beat by Jonathan Gannon, Kyler Murray, and the Cardinals. And to their credit, the Cardinals have come to play this season, and they've been much better than I thought. But the Eagles losing a game like that, like late in the season, playoff seeding at stake. I mean, it's just a really bad look for Nick Sirianni and that coaching staff. I mean, the Eagles don't play well on defense, really inconsistent on offense. I don't know what we're expecting out of this team going forward, but they're only favored by 5.5 points on the road against the Giants. And the Giants have one of the worst offenses in the league this season. So that tells you all you need to know about the Eagles and the way they're playing right now. Nobody is, sticking their neck out for them at this point. Barring an unexpected tear from that Philly defense, I just think this team is poised for an early playoff exit in, what should be a loaded NFC race. But that being said, I also think they're going to win this game. So give me the Eagles.
Yeah, I think Philly has looked disappointing in both their wins and their losses. I've been saying this all year. Like, there's just not been right. They've not been right. I'm still a big Nick Sirianni guy. I'll continue to defend him. I just think he can get in his own way at times, saying stupid stuff, like the stuff after the Chiefs game. Why, right? You don't need to say all that. Um, yeah, man. I think Philadelphia has been living on a very thin edge, and as you said, I think it maybe does come apart early in the playoffs. They no longer control their own destiny, which, for what it's worth, seemed like they had all year, and now they
They
don't. And they're
started 10-1. Like,
yeah, I
it's
mean, they're going to be the
unbelievable.
5 seed after starting 10-1. That's just really weird to me. And that they were on the edge, ending kind of that hard streak. I think they just had to go through Dallas and SF. Even at 10-3, you could have still gotten it. So, yeah, man. I mean, like, some really disappointing losses. And honestly, that Giants game was really close. They were really close to letting that go. The Giants have had two disappoint. I can't remember. I think the Giants are 5-11,
Yeah.
but I can name you three games that I 100% know off the top of my head they should have won. The Rams game last week, they should have hit the kick. The Eagles game, and then the Bills game where it was like that stupid PI at the 1 yard line to lose. So, things just didn't go their way this year. Happens for a lot of teams. I'll take the Eagles here, but I think it's going to be the same thing. I think they barely win, or something goes their way, and they just find a way to sweep the Giants. But as I've said all year, just not been impressed.
All right, Seahawks Cardinals. Although this matchup is between an 8-8 Seahawks team and a 4-12 Cardinals team, I'm actually really interested in this game. This afternoon slate as a whole is actually looking really good. The Cardinals, obviously, fresh off that win against Philly. This team is playing really hard this season for Jonathan Gannon. They've beat Dallas and Philly, so you have two signature wins this season. And although the Cardinals have 12 losses, I think we can both say that the future is pretty bright for this team as a whole. And entering the season was hard to, fathom that they could do that. I felt that the Cardinals had easily the worst roster in the entire NFL. And now I'm going to try to make amends for those statements by predicting the Cardinals to win their final game of the year. The Hawks still have a lot on the line, but I also think that's going to kind of just like fuel Arizona in a way. The Hawks just got beat by the Steelers. They've been kind of just been teetering on the edges for the last handful of weeks of being eliminated. So I think the Cardinals are going to play spoiler here. You head into the offseason with a great win against the Eagles and a division win against Seattle. So give me Arizona.
I think Arizona has more to gain from losing because of that pick. So that's the only thing that's keeping me, because I think matchup wise, Arizona matches up pretty well. They should have beaten Seattle the first time around. And as you said, Seattle's been teetering, man. They've been so lucky throughout the season. And I talked to a lot of Seahawks fans, and it's just like, I think the sensible ones should want to tank, but obviously they don't want to because they're like, oh, look, we beat Philly. And we can make the playoffs and then do what? Like, what are you going to do here? I mean, you know, neither quarterback Lock or Geno is your future, and it's just a murky situation with Jamal Adams, right? You're gonna have to pay DK. What does he want to do? Everything's
Yeah.
kind of up in the air. Uh, I think it's tough because it's like Seattle wins, and if Green Bay loses, they'd be in. But if Arizona wins, what happens with that pick? I don't think they're really thinking about that right now.
Well, no team really plays to lose, especially with the Cardinals
Yeah,
when
I
they've
mean,
been
like I
fighting
think
hard
they're
all
kind of
year.
locked in anyway into a top five pick. I think Arizona. I'll pick Arizona too, just because I think they actually do have the pieces to beat Seattle. But I mean, this is also such an easy way for Seattle to get right. I don't know. It's on the road, so I'll take Arizona at home.
All right, moving on to a game that I don't really care about: the Chiefs and the Chargers. Easton Stick versus
It's
who's
not
the
Chad
Chiefs
Henne.
backup? It's Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert. So yeah, fascinating stuff. Give me the Chiefs.
Thank God Chad Henne is retired. Thank God. The Browns killer, the Jags killer. Thank God he is just out of the picture. So no matter what, I know I won't have to play Chad Henne. That you wouldn't know. No one would have thought I would have been talking about Chad Henne in 2024, but all my Browns fans know we are glad that we will not be seeing him no matter what happens. All right, that being said, I'll take the Chiefs too, I guess. I mean, like, I don't know. I think the Chargers can honestly win this. Play spoiler. It's at LA.
It's gonna be a Chiefs
Eh,
home game though.
yeah,
It
whatever.
really
Give me the
doesn't
Chiefs.
matter.
Big deal. This game is like meaningless. I think
Yeah.
Chargers
Moving
have their
on.
own first round.
Moving on
So
to another meaningless game. Rams Niners. The
whoa, whoa,
Rams.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Well, to
No.
one person it's meaningless. To the other, it means something. And I think it means something to the Cold Hard Truth brand as a whole. So we'll put it that way. The Rams have clinched a playoff spot this year. I think they're totally deserving of one. The Niners clinched the 1 seed. I thought they were totally deserving of that. Um, you know how I feel about the Niners, but I mean, honestly, I kind of have a feeling the Rams are going to win this game in a meaningless Week 18 game. This is where Sean McVay gets his win over Kyle in the regular season. Uh, yeah, I think one more wake up call before the playoffs. Give me the Rams.
Ho, 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 ho. So it's going to be Wentz versus Darnold. Somehow, some way, we are getting this matchup. I don't think they've ever played each other. So this is awesome. This is how it's going to be. Darnold, obviously, with a much more stacked roster, and Wentz going to be on the road. I will say this: Carson Wentz has never lost to Kyle Shanahan as a starter. So for that reason, and since this will probably be the last time in my life I will ever get to pick Carson Wentz to win a game, I am taking the LA Rams. The only problem is I'm probably going to be going to this game with my good old buddy Srikar right here. And last time I went to a Niners game, I was wearing a Baker Mayfield jersey and sorrowfully walking my way down a 31-3 defeat. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I have no Carson Wentz jersey, so I won't be rocking that. Maybe I'll bring that signed helmet I have of his, but
All
um
right, one more game before we get to the big Sunday nighter. It's the Cowboys and Commanders. Controversy or not, I mean the Cowboys have effectively proven to me in recent weeks that they are legit contenders in the NFC. I think they're going to put one last exclamation point on this season in this game against the Commanders. Um, I mean, I don't know what direction the Commanders are going to go. Major question marks at head coach, at quarterback. Nothing new for this franchise. Um, yeah, I just don't know. It's a directionless kind of place to be in, and the Commanders as a whole, just this season, haven't been that interesting the whole second half of the year. So yeah, I think they're gonna get dragged. Give me the Cowboys.
Okay, two notes. One, yeah, the Commanders were 4-4 at one point, or 4-5, looking okay. I mean, I remember Shriek was pretty high on them when they were
I
like
was
two.
high on them going into that Bills game,
Yeah.
and
Then they
then that
got
yeah.
destroyed. Yeah, man. The Commanders, I think, out of all these lower win teams, very directionless. I'll agree with you there. Um, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna pick the Cowboys to kill him, but I will put in this note out there. Last year, the season finale, Sam Howell's first game, they hung up 26 and they only gave up six, and Dallas was still playing for something for the division. So, um, yeah, that being said, I think Dallas will still smack them.
All right, here we go. Bills Dolphins. Winner take all game for the NFC or AFC East. The Bills have obviously taken care of business. You win 4 straight after falling to 6-6, and this winning streak has included some really good teams. You look at the Chiefs. They dominated the Cowboys. The Bills aren't perfect, but they're a dangerous team right now, and they're catching the Dolphins at maybe the best time because the Dolphins are down bad. They just got embarrassed against the Ravens. The Ravens dropped 56 on them, and Miami also just lost Bradley Chubb to add insult to injury, or injury to insult. I mean, Miami's whole operation has just not been clean over the last month or so, and even with a great win over a team like Dallas a couple weeks ago, I just don't have nearly as much confidence in this team now as I did earlier in the year. You still have one of the most, explosive and dynamic offenses in the league. I think the Bills can hang with them, though. The Bills are 3-point favorites, and I think it's spot on. I think the Dolphins are going to lose this game. I think the Bills are going to take the division, like I said whenever we did the podcast where we were discussing who was going to win the AFC East. Give me Buffalo.
I can't believe the Bills are somehow, if they win this, are going to be the 2 seed. That makes me so angry. Like that, the Browns 100% should be a higher seed than them, but whatever. So annoying. That makes me so mad. Anyway, yeah, and the fact that Miami's so injured, it's like here's the thing though. Miami, their whole narrative, right? They can't beat a winning team. I think the bigger thing with them is they're so much better at home than they are on the road. But then they also lost to the Titans at home.
They lost to the Titans, yeah.
Man, I feel like this is just the game that Miami somehow wins though, and the Bills have also been just hanging on a thin edge, at least against or the Chargers and the Pats. I'm really feeling a Miami upset here. I think it would be crazy. I think if they, so here's the thing, at least with what I've picked, I think I picked Pittsburgh and I picked Jacksonville and I picked Miami. My scenario would have the Bills out of the playoffs, by the way.
That's crazy.
But yeah, that one probably will change. I don't know, man. We'll see. As a Browns fan, obviously I'd probably want the Bills to be out. But the other side is they could also beat Baltimore, right, as a 6 seed, and then we can host them for the AFC. We'll see, man. We'll just tackle it like that. I'm just so excited. This is like the first time in 3 years that football has been meaningful, at least to me, like in terms of who I get to root for at this time of the year. So it's been a long time, man. Streak's been to the playoffs, like 5 straight, I swear, like 4 out of the 5 years. Yeah, 2020 was the only one you guys didn't go. So yeah, that was the one year we went. So yeah, for you, this is nothing, but for me, man, I'm just so happy. Everyone asks me about it, like, damn, Flacco, how's it been? And I'm just like, dude, it's just, I'm just happy to be here, honestly. But yeah, I hope you guys are happy to be here too, watching us. That being said, thank you guys so much for listening. We've been the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast. We will see you guys next time.